As a young man, he was summoned to the wars. Spent his best years with blood on his hands.
Hey guys, it's HomoMoto, and I'm here to talk to you today about gay cops. The reason I'm talking to you today about gay cops is because I used to be one. Still gay, but I'm no longer a cop. I do still work as a volunteer firefighter, emergency responder, but I left law enforcement about 15 years ago. I want to start with my first cop job. The first police job I had was Lawrence County Sheriff's Office. I started off at Lawrence County as a reserve correctional officer. What a reserve is means you don't get paid. But reserves are the first ones to get hired in small towns when they do have a position open. So I started off as a reserve correctional officer, and I did that for about 3 months. As a correctional officer, one of the questions I get asked is, hey, did you do strip searches? Yes, I did. And they're like, oh, I bet you like what you saw. No, I didn't. The thing about it is, think of a male gynecologist with a female patient. A gynecologist does not go into that line of work to ogle females. I did not go into law enforcement to ogle males. So, no, I didn't. Plus, most of the people that were brought in were either drunk, had thrown up on themselves, severely needed a bath, or was just nasty in general, on top of they typically weren't a good person. So why would I like what I saw? You know, I do have a little bit of class. So no, it was not fun. But anyway, I did that for about 3 months, and then I became a reserve patrolman for the sheriff's department. That was a little more fun. I worked with a couple really good officers, or people I thought were good officers, for 3 months, and I really made a good impression. For one, you only have to work a couple days a month as a reserve officer, but I was doing 2 to 3 days per week. So I had the determination and the dedication to get me hired part-time. The reason it was part-time is law enforcement jobs in Alabama at that time were kind of hard to come by, even though they didn't pay anything. A lot of people wanted to do that job, and there just weren't the positions, you know, to fulfill the desire. So I worked part-time for about 6 months. So I was there 13 months total. So I guess I worked part-time for 7 months. While I was part-time, I found out just how, at that time, 22 years ago, I found out just how much law enforcement didn't like gays and didn't like gay cops. There was a police officer in Birmingham that it was found out he was gay, and they gave that poor guy holy hell until he eventually ended up leaving the department. They even tried to fire him for sexual misconduct, and he hadn't done anything. Just the fact that he was openly gay, once they found out, he's like, yeah, I'm gay, and he was all okay with it, and they appeared to be as well, but they weren't. So at that time I knew, you know, hey, you need to keep this under wraps. So I did. I didn't tell anybody at Lawrence County that I was gay. And I was scared to death to go to nightclubs or anything like gay bars, because my captain, my direct supervisor, he was the chaplain. Not only was he the police chaplain, he was also the minister of a very small Southern Baptist church. Now, I don't know if you guys know how Alabama Southern Baptists feel about gay people, but if they could have their way, they would probably stone us, burn us at the stake, and then draw and quarter us. So I kept to myself, and I didn't really make any friends. I had a few that I was pretty good acquaintances with, but I didn't really make any friends in law enforcement in Lawrence County because I was afraid of what could happen. So after 13 months, I finally got tired of having to hide who I was, and I left law enforcement. I went to work in HVAC. I did that for 5-6 years, and I got fed up with it. My mother and stepfather and baby sister had moved to Memphis, Tennessee. Well, Mama called me one day and she says, "Hey, baby, you need to come up here. You're going to like it. There's a lot of gay people. There's a lot of gay bars. People here are very open-minded." So I packed up and off to Memphis I moved. Once I got to Memphis, I had a hard time finding decent jobs. There was a lot of restaurants hiring, mostly fast foods, but they didn't really pay anything, and it wasn't what I was looking for. I ended up finding a job in armed security. Now, I'm not going to talk a lot about that because that's not what this video is about. It's about being gay in law enforcement. But I'll tell you, there were a lot of gay men and women in armed security, and they were okay with it. I worked for about 6 months as an armed security officer for a large company in Memphis. And while on assignment, this guy that worked for Letic Properties, he used to work for the Memphis Public Housing Department, police department. He went to work for Letic because they paid a whole lot more money. He was head of security for Letic Properties. He told me, he says, "Hey man, you should go to work for Memphis Public Housing Police Department." And I said, "Well, you know, I guess I could apply." So I ended up going to work for Memphis Public Housing. I applied, used him as a reference, and got the job almost instantly. Loved the job. I worked for them for a couple months, and a position came open in Zone 10. Zone 10 in the city of Memphis is Midtown District. Midtown District in Memphis is the gay district. So I applied for this job, and I had my interview, you know, to transfer to that zone, because it was actually a promotion. By moving to that zone, it was a zone supervisor position that was open. By moving to that zone, I would have become supervisor. So during my interview process, the recruiter basically told me, you know, "Hey, look, we appreciate your enthusiasm, wanting to move to Zone 10 because you want to be a supervisor." I said, "You can have the supervisor position. I just want to go to Zone 10. And they're like, "You know that's the gay district, right?" And I said, "That's why I want to go to Zone 10. And they couldn't understand. And I said, "Look, I'm gay. I would like to go to that district so, you know, the people there would be treated better." And I want to tell you guys, I loved it. I loved working Memphis Public Housing in Zone 10. Now keep in mind that I was assigned to the projects and the Section 8 housing and the project houses, apartments and such. But, you know, I was an officer, patrol officer in the community in that zone, so I got to meet a lot of gay people. And there were a lot of gay people that lived in the project houses and the Section 8 housing in Zone 10. I made a lot of friends. I loved it there. I worked for them for about 3 years, I believe it was, and loved every minute of it. And I had no problem at all being a gay cop at that time. I absolutely loved it. I could attend the gay bars. As a matter of fact, the Memphis Gay and Lesbian Community Center, anytime they had an event, they would hire me as their armed security, as a police officer, an off-duty police officer. And I just had so much fun. I miss Memphis so much. It was a great progressive city. It's a good city to be gay in. They have about 10 or 11 gay bars. They have the Memphis Gay and Lesbian Community Center, and just all sorts of things for gay people in Memphis. I had a lot of fun. It was a great job. I worked that for a little while, and I kind of got homesick because my mom had moved back to Alabama a few years before me. So I decided to come on back home. Well, I applied for a correctional officer job at the Morgan County Sheriff's Department. Now, although that's not really law enforcement, it's still in the law enforcement field, so I'm going to throw this in there. Working for Morgan County was okay. It wasn't like working for Lawrence County when I did all those many years before. Working for Morgan County, I wasn't out, but I wasn't scared of being gay like I was in Lawrence County. In Morgan County, I found 3 or 4 really cool guys that worked with me that I pretty much came out to. And come to find out, one of the sergeants was gay. Big old mean man too. I mean, he was a total jerk to the inmates. But truth is, he loved everyone there. He loved all the officers. He loved the inmates. He just tried to put off as being a hard butt, so, you know, he could avoid confrontation. And he was a big man, and he was all muscle, so he He did a very good job of that. I miss working with this guy. I ended up moving back to Tennessee for a little while, to the Memphis area, and I went to work for a small police department called Galloway. I don't know how big Galloway is now. It's been 13 years since I've been there. But I went to work for Galloway Police Department. I want to tell you, small departments have a lot of corruption. There were 6 officers that worked for that department, and every one of them were bigoted jerks. You would hear, and they talked about women like they were nothing as well. It just, working with them was not pleasant. But while working with them, I got called to the chief's office because they told me my ticket revenue wasn't high enough. Guys, Galloway, Tennessee is an itty-bitty spot on the map that lowers the speed limit to 35 miles an hour from 65 on the interstate down to 35. I mean, it's like literally you're doing 65 and then there's a sign that says speed limit 35. And they would bust you right there at that sign. They would write you a ticket every single time. But what happened, the word got out that Galloway was like that, and people stopped speeding through Galloway. I mean, 1 mile an hour over, they would try to pull you over and give you a ticket. Horrible job. Horrible job. And God forbid you be gay and get pulled over. Have a rainbow sticker on your car or anything. They would just, it was terrible what you would go through if you were a gay citizen pulling through Galloway. So I did not, under any circumstance, tell anybody that I was gay at that police department. I didn't work for them for about 6 months. And that was probably one of the worst jobs I ever had. Worst department, worst people I ever worked with. Really put a bad taste in my mouth for law enforcement. Being openly gay nowadays as a police officer is not a problem. As a matter of fact, New York City has a new car. It's they use it at Pride events, and here's a video clip of it right here. Notice the rainbow colored lights, the rainbow stripes, and there's a light flashing across the back that says hearts out to Orlando. This was done not long after the Orlando shooting. New York City has gay recruiting. They actually intentionally recruit openly gay police officers to work the gay areas of New York. I think that's awesome. In addition to New York, Atlanta used to do this. I don't know if they still do, but I know they used to. And I think it's Dallas. So I know it's one of the larger cities in Texas. It's either Houston or Dallas. Pretty sure it's Dallas. So that's pretty awesome. A lot of movies are starting to portray gay cops, like Wild Hogs. I'd like to say that being gay is okay everywhere, especially with law enforcement, but unfortunately it's not. There are still cities in the South where if you get pulled over, you've got a rainbow sticker on your car, or you act gay, you're still going to be given a lot of hassle. I wish that this would stop. I wish the officers would see past that. I wish they would simply do their jobs and just start harassing people because of their sexual orientation. Things have come a long way, but they've got a long way to go. If I were to be able to, as far as health-wise and everything, go back into law enforcement, I think it would be a lot different now than it was back in the day. Because I want to tell you, back when I was a cop, it was very dangerous to be a gay officer, at least in Alabama. Memphis, not so much. But if you are a gay cop, or your friend's the one, don't be afraid to be who you are. If you're working for a department where it's not okay, please change jobs. Be who you are. And if you are a police officer that is straight, that is working with a gay guy, I want you to leave them alone. Don't pick on them. Show them respect. Because I want to tell you, a lot of my co-workers found out that a gay guy will have your back, not in a sexual manner. A gay guy will have your back in the middle of a shootout quicker than anybody else. There's a lot of loyalty and a lot of dedication amongst gay people, even, you know, with straight counterparts. So, you know, show respect to your gay fellow officers and everything, and don't make it hard on them, because I want to tell you, back when I worked for Lawrence County, it just wasn't pleasant. That's all I really got for this one. I love y'all, and roll tide.
I was a storm and I passed right over you, and I tried to eclipse the sun in the hopes that you love the tumble and spray in your face, and the sky broken